Two kinds of smoke rise from the chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel, black and white, signaling to the world that the cardinals have either not yet agreed on a new pope, or they have. So how does the smoke turn white? Let's take a look at the science. In 1505, Michelangelo finished painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, one of humanity's greatest artistic achievements. But the next year, Pope Julius II had a chimney installed above the altar to keep the chapel free of soot from the altar's incense burner. And there it stayed for centuries, unused, like a morbidly obese chimney. That was until 1870, when a series of 14 new popes were elected. All that's separating them from the general public was a glass window. Then, in 1885, an open window provided a better view, and in 1914, the first purpose-built viewing area was created. But these smoke signals weren't planned. They were a surprise. The addition of smoke to signal a vote's outcome happened almost by accident. Although cardinals had been burning their ballots since at least the 15th century, to keep the voting secret, the smoke wasn't part of the plan. They burned the ballots in a metal container, and the smoke rose up through the chimney and out of an opening near the roofline, where it could be seen by those gathered below. But it wasn't until an artist named Giacomo Guarani made a sketch of the smoke rising that it appeared in a newspaper. And then the world took notice. By the mid-19th century, people would gather just outside the Vatican to watch the smoke after every round of voting. But there was a problem. Sometimes the smoke looked black, sometimes it looked white. The problem was there was no set way to generate smoke. There was also no standardization of what the colors meant. One day it was white, the next day it was black. It was confusing. The Church decided to capitalize on the public's interest and codified the system in 1914. From that point on, black smoke meant the cardinals had not yet reached a decision, and white smoke meant they had elected a new pope. But there was still a problem. The smoke wasn't being generated by the ballots. Instead, it was coming from a separate stove inside the sacristy, which was close to the Sistine Chapel. The stove was stoked with straw, and when it produced thick black smoke, it would be blown away by fans. And when it produced thin white smoke, nothing was done. That meant that any given batch of smoke could be any shade between black and white. Plus, it didn't always work. During the Conclave of 1939, for example, the smoke from the stove turned out to be white, but the cardinals had not yet selected a pope. That led to an embarrassing public announcement from the Cardinal Chamberlain stating, and I quote, "No smoke means no agreement. Grey smoke means agreement." 4 years later, a similar problem occurred during the 1958 conclave. The smoke was supposed to be white, but it came out grey. The reason? Too much water in the fuel. By the 1970s, the Church had grown tired of this hit-or-miss system, and in 1978, they replaced the straw with a formula consisting of sulfur, charcoal, and other ingredients. But that ended up producing too much smoke. By 2005, the recipe had been refined to include potassium perchlorate, an oxidizing substance that provides oxygen to the reaction, anthracene, a hydrocarbon derived from coal tar that serves as a heavy smoke-producing fuel, and sulfur, added to adjust the burn rate and temperature. The result, thick black smoke. Meanwhile, white smoke is produced using a much cleaner fuel mix and a more powerful oxidizer. To make that, potassium chlorate, even more reactive than perchlorate, is mixed with lactose, which is milk sugar, and burnt very quickly and cleanly into water vapor and carbon dioxide. The sugar burns so rapidly that it creates a lot of gaseous output, steam and carbon dioxide, generating a voluminous white cloud. The final ingredient, pine rosin, produces thick white smoke when heated. It releases tiny droplets and light-colored ash that looks whitish. It also contains terpenes that burn to yield a pale, visible smoke. When combined, the oxidizing power of potassium chlorate allows the lactose and rosin to burn hot and fast, yielding mostly clean combustion products along with a cloud of vapor and resin particles. Rather than soot, the smoke consists of microscopic droplets and fine solids that are transparent or white. The result is a mixture of steam and white or light grey smoke that contrasts sharply with the dark, carbon-rich black smoke. Today, thanks to modern chemistry, the smoke is unmistakable. Thick black billows when the cardinals have not yet reached a consensus, and a bright white plume when they have. So how will the next one look? Smoke rises from the chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel,